Space, the final frontier. These are the warriors of the Supernova Enterprise. Their mission: to seek out new bases and civilization, to boldly go where no man has raided before. So, you want to make an uberly cool, overly powered space station, do ya? Well, to get started, you're going to need to get to space. And once you're in space, you need to make sure you have everything on you. So just take these few steps to ensure that you don't have to make 500 trips when you get there. So all you're going to need is an ender chest, an ME controller, an ME access terminal, an ME drive, some ME cable, some power stored in cubes, a universal cable, some ME storage, a rocket, and some fuel. Now what you'll want to do is put your 64K drives or equivalent inside your ender chest as shown. So whenever I go up to space, everything I own is right here. So what I'll need to do now is just grab my rocket, because without a rocket you can't get into space. Just plonk your rocket down, stick your fuel in, grab your energy cube, just stick it right there, click load fuel. So I've already put down my launch pad, just going to jump in my rocket, press F to check if it's loading. Now despite popular belief, on Volks you can take off at 20% fuel. So we're just going to wait for it to get to 20% fuel. Should also take your items with you, because that was the whole point in bringing them. And now you're going to take off. Now, one thing I forgot to bring along with me, was my 24 iron ingots, my 32 tin ingots, and my 16 steel ingots. But luckily for you, I've already edited it before this, so you can just sit and laugh at me now because I forgot to bring them along with me. So that is how you get into space. So now you're on your space station. This is what the iron, tin and steel was for. This little box. Now, I'm gonna lie to you, this isn't actually my space station, I can't make another one. So what you're gonna want to do is, I would highly recommend not building here, because if you're in a PvP raid server, someone's gonna fly up and they're gonna see your house. So what I failed to mention is you're gonna need a lot of stone or a lux capacitor. All you're going to want to do is just build your bridge as far away as you can. Now if you're an iDreams player, you can go 15,000 blocks that way and then go another 15,000 blocks that way, and that's your border. I wouldn't recommend going to the corners. I would say go about between 5,000 and 12,500 blocks from the center, and you should be safe, but don't hold me to that. Assuming that you've got your ME set up correctly, so you brought along your ME controller, your ME access terminal and your ME drives, what you're going to want to do is get yourself a Forcefield projector, a chest, some ME cable running down from your ME system, an export bus, just stick it on top of the chest. Now I'm making my outer shell out of reinforced concrete, so what I'm going to do is just right click and put the picture of the reinforced concrete in the export bus. I'm going to set it to stack mode, and because this is already linked up to the system, if I look inside the chest, I should start to see stacks of reinforced concrete appear. So assuming you've now made your little platform and you've got your ME set up, now what you're going to want to do is just get your beginning of your MFFS setup. So what I'm going to do is just whack some universal cable down in a line. Just grab around 8 to 16 coercion drivers. Just stick them down. And then you want to put your Fortron capacitor down. It doesn't actually need to be attached to the wire at all. So you're just going to assign a frequency. So let's just do 1, 2, 3 for now. Just want to type that into all of them. If you have a frequency card, this can go a lot faster, but I'm not actually carrying one. Just want to whack in your speed modules, turn on your capacitor, turn on your coercion drivers, and now we go on to the projector. So now what I want to do is open my field projector. Now I've already pre-configured this. Just to check that I've actually lined it up correctly, I'm going to turn it on in projector mode. So if I've got my bearings wrong, it will actually tell me. So as I can see, it lines up that side, lines up that side, lines up that side, and it lines up on that side. Now when it comes to base size, I would personally recommend a 48 by 48 base, as this is. This is just mainly due to chunk loading. On most servers, you can only load to 1 or 2 chunks in front of you. So wherever I'm standing in this base, the entire thing will always be loaded. On that note, we can see that this Forcefield projector is set up correctly. So now what I'm going to do is just turn the projector off, put in my field stabilizer module, just turn it back on, and we should see that instead of a projector, it's going to start placing my blocks down. Now this export bus isn't needed, but it's going to save you a lot of time. As you can see, every time a set of blocks is stabilized, they're just replaced instantly by the system. You can do this manually if you like, but this is much faster, as you need thousands and thousands of blocks to stabilize a cube. So I'm just going to sit in the corner and fast forward the video so you can watch it being built slowly. Okay, so now that your box has been stabilized, what you're going to want to do is, this is an optional extra. Just going to turn my projector off so that I can show you. To keep a base nice and neat, what you can do is install cavity walls. As you can see here, what we've actually done, so we've got a 2 thick wall. The outer wall being the defense wall, the inner wall being sort of an extra defense wall, as you say, and this hole in between is what we're using to run cable about the place. Now if you don't care about there being cables around your entire house, you can save a lot of resources by keeping this wall out. Now this provides extra defences, and it just generally makes your base look a lot cleaner. So as you can see, there's an ME cable running down the back of the house, and from inside you can barely see it. So if we just go back up top, I'll show you how to put your cavity wall in. All you're going to want to do is just remove 2 scale modules from each side, not including the top and bottom. And then we're just going to want to turn the projector on again and watch it stabilize. So once again, I'm just going to speed up the video. As you can see, the cavity walls are now complete, which means I can freely wire down all of the walls and it won't be seen, except for in this case where you can see it. Now what I'm going to do is just go over how to set up power supply to your base using Fulmination. Okay, so now we move on to setting up the Fulmination Generators. Now Fulmination Generators, in my opinion, are the most sustainable source of power. You don't have to use them, but the ratio of power they produce compared to anything else is astronomical. So I would strongly suggest setting them up. Now the size that I'm going to be using is 7x7 Fulmination, which means you need to make a 9x9 square of universal cable. So as you can see at the bottom, this is a 9x9 square of universal cable. If we go up top, we can then see that the fulminations are in one from each side, making it 7x7. So for each face, you're going to need around 50 or just under for the rest of the faces. Right, so once you've got your bottom set up, what you're going to want to do is, if we go over to this fulmination, you can see that all the edges have been set up with universal cable. So you're essentially forming a mesh. Once you've formed that mesh, you're going to want to put your walls up. So you just start at the bottom, fill all the outer blocks in. Now I will warn you, fulmination generators are very expensive. So if we just take a look at the recipe, it takes 4 obsidian blocks, 4 steel plates, and 1 advanced circuit per piece. So as you can see, I'm setting up 8 7x7 fulmination generators. If you want to be outputting the same power that I am, you're going to need about 20 to 30,000 pieces of steel alone, which is why fulminations are so expensive, but they're also the most efficient way of producing power. So once we've set up our walls, our fulmination should look like something like this. Now I've just left a hole in the top so that we can dive inside. Normally the top would be sealed, so what I'm going to do is just seal off the top. Just stick a light in here for now, which I will remove later. We're going to set up the automation process. So as you can see, what I've done is I've found the middle of the fulmination generator and dug a 3x1 hole. The third hole is what you're going to use to get in and out. So what you're going to do in the middle is you're going to run some ME cable up. Next to that, you're going to put some rednet cable down. So if we just take a look inside at what's going on, I'm using a dropper. So this is 8 pieces of cobblestone and 1 piece of redstone. Run the rednet cable up the back so that it's attached to the dropper, and importantly, it's also attaching itself to the precision export bus. So inside the precision export bus, what you'll want to do is set up your explosive. I've got antimatter. I'll explain this why later on in the video as to why I'm using antimatter. You're going to set it to redstone mode, activate once per pulse, and you want it on stack mode, move single items. You don't want this on stacked because you're just going to be dragging out a whole stack of antimatter every time, and you don't want to do that. Just leave it on single for now. So once you've done that, you're going to run your RedNet cable to wherever you like. So just for now, we're not going to set up the fully automated process. We're just going to run it out, stick a button on the RedNet, assuming that your ME cable is connected to the top, which mine is. It should be okay. So I'm actually just going to disconnect this one for now because it's not actually quite ready. If we go over to one of the completed Fulmination Generators, so this should actually have wiring on the top. So if we just take a look inside, we can see it's filled with water and that the hole at the bottom is patched up. So this is basically what the inside of a Fulmination Generator looks like. You don't have to put water all the way to the top, but the reason I cover the entire thing with water is so that this thing in the middle doesn't blow up. As we're in space, the antimatter sometimes has the habit of sort of floating upwards, exploding in the middle, and breaking all the stuff you have inside, and you don't want that. So covering it in water is the most effective way. And you're wiring in from the bottom, not from the top. I've done it from the top before, and after extensive testing I've come to the conclusion that this is the foolproof way, which doesn't blow up. Don't hold me to that. So this is a working Fulmination Generator, set up exactly the same way. If we go outside, this would usually have universal cable on top, as you can see with the completed version. So this one in the middle is what it should look like when it's completely done. So as a demonstration, when I press this button, you should see the ME cable lights up. That means it's detected that it requires antimatter. That's what the fuzzy export is essentially doing. It's requesting antimatter to be sent to it. The RedNet cable activates the pulse, and as you just saw then, it exploded. So what I'm going to do is just a quick power test. If I attach this cube to the side, it should fill straight up. If it doesn't, it just means it's full. Well, as you can see, one piece of antimatter and 2 Fulmination Generators. This thing's just filled up pretty much instantly. So if we just pick that up, it's going to return to me. That is how you set up a Fulmination Generator. If you're confused, I just suggest rewinding a few minutes, just go over it a couple of times. So, in episode 2, we're going to finish what we've already built, hopefully get the power done, and we're going to show you how to do ME auto crafting. So that's setting up your ME CPU, setting up your patterns, and how to do ME factory. So that's purifying, crushing, enriching and smelting, all with the power of ME. And as usual, thanks for watching.